the right place or the place which is enough for me to grow as a leader, to grow as an entrepreneur?
For me, like again, it's the same thing, the passion. You need to find what you want to do and you like to do. And then you decide your model of youth innovator, social entrepreneurs, youth innovator or leader, because we have many fields to play, and then where you want to go and what you want to do. So it's more like you can find where to go.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, Romy. Everything starts with passion and being open. I think being open is also because, sometimes you accidentally stumble on opportunities that probably were not in your original plan, and it ends up being a very beautiful journey. So I think openness and having a sense of purpose, is what you should take on if you're exploring any opportunity. And even if it takes you through, and a path that was not in the original plan, just enjoy the journey as you go along, especially if you're young, because when you get older, you wouldn't have that sort of opportunity to take, all kinds of risk like Hiromi took when she was younger. So this is the time to go look at it as an adventure, really, and an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become better.
For someone or for a young person who has multiple interests, we are believed or we are told that we should have what we stand for what people know you for. How do we handle having multiple interests? How do we position ourselves if we have multiple interests and still stand as people can identify what you do without it being mixed up?
Okay, so this stray bullet just hit me because I struggle with that. It's not weird, and it's actually a gift to have multiple interests, right? To be very dynamic, but it's also important to know what to prioritize per time and why you need to prioritize it, right? Because you'll always struggle with balance when you have multiple interests. And even more so, as a woman, just being a woman, you're so multifaceted, For me, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a career person. I run 234 Finance. I've just started an executive program, so you're always going to struggle with balance. And, as women, that's just sort of it's also a blessing because you also see women, really thriving because they've been able to balance multiple hats. Of course, it would be unrealistic to say you can do it all at once. So something is always going to have to give because different things are fighting for your time. So the sweet spot is knowing what is important or what you need to be pushing per time. And, after a while, you will kind of get the hang of it. And also being very disciplined and very militant is what I say with your time, right? You have to learn the art of time blocking and, setting aside time for different things throughout the day. Right. And that may look different for different people because people also have their productive hours. For me, I do best in the morning. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, that's like the average time that I wake up and I'm doing my morning routine, I'm doing my prayers, and I'm diving into work. Right. Then I have to time block if I have certain meetings scheduled. If I don't schedule anything, if it's not on the calendar, it ain't happening, is what I like to say, right? So you have to be very, very disciplined with your time and, allotting things and give yourself grace as well. You cannot, we're very limited as humans, and it's very important to acknowledge that and plan. With that understanding that we're limited, you're not a superwoman, you're just human, right? And if you're able to play with your strength and you're able to build an effective team that complements the skill set that you have, then you'll survive, you'll thrive. Sometimes there's something I think is important to mention. Sometimes what you're passionate about is not what puts food on the table, right? So being able to identify your passion versus what puts food on your table. That could look like working a corporate career for a period of time while pursuing your passion. I like to say that when you're passionate about something, you shouldn't put so much pressure to monetize what you're passionate about. Right? 234 Finance, when I tell people it's 12 years old, it feels like, what have you been doing for 12 years? But this is my impact work, right? So it's a business that I've nurtured, and now it's scaling without the pressure of, trying to monetize it. Of course, that pressure comes because when you have projects to execute, you have, to raise donor funds and all of that. That pressure comes. But now, what I've done is I've created a different income stream that basically does what 234 Finance does to support entrepreneurs, but we focus on supporting governments and institutions. Same thing, same team, just a different income stream and a different target audience, right? So also knowing how to effectively use your skill set. So even though I do different things with 234 Finance and the company that services these institutional clients and development partners and government, right, is the same skill set, but just a different target audience. So I'm not having to move away so far from what I do and what I know and the competency that I've built within my team. I don't know if that gives any sort of clarity. All right.
In the midst of so many, how do you focus on, chase one area instead of chasing so many areas, right? In today's world, everything looks very glamorous for young people. How do I chase one and run with it to the end?
Well, then I think, again, my answer is always passion. So to look for the passion, that you try many things because you don't know what you actually like or not. And then looks glamorous, but if you don't like it, you cannot continue. The sustainability, is very important. Then, for example, I started studying human rights because I thought this is important for working UN. But after working the Sudan with the young people in the livelihood, I thought the business is very important. So then I studied again in the business, which I never imagined when I was younger. So try many things and then find what you like.
I can also jump in. I think you talk about the self-identity, emulating a role model. And Jeff, and you were also mentioning, how do you make sure that it's okay to kind of like you have someone who's a mentor and you like what they're doing, but at the same time, you don't lose who you are as a person. So I think you've already more or less answered that question. And that is that, yes, it's lovely to have a role model. They can only take you thus far. But in the end, what you need to do is process the information you're getting, right? And then internalize it and ask yourself the question, is this thing working for me, yes or no? Or have I learned to a certain point that I need more? Because it might mean someone who's a role model for you might be just for that point in time, but the next stage of your life, they might not actually be the right person. So trust in who you are as a person first. I think you know yourself better than anyone else, if I can say that.